Joining us now is dperry, a world affairs analyst. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. Dan, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, as we reach the end of 2025, how do you analyse where both sides stand in this conflict? Of course, now we're concluding our first year with Donald Trump as the US president.
Well, we're headed towards 4 years since Putin launched the war, and I think it's fair to say that he did not expect to be where he is 4 years later, which is having occupied about a fifth of Ukraine, which is territory mostly Russia already dominated at the beginning of the war. The war continues, shows no signs of abating, and I think at this point can basically be characterized.
However, experts say that Russia has shown no sign of relaxing its maximalist demands. Joining us now is dperry, a world affairs analyst. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. Dan, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, as we reach the end of 2025, how do you analyse where both sides stand in this conflict? Of course, now we're concluding our first year with Donald Trump as the US president.
Well, we're headed towards 4 years since Putin launched the war, and I think it's fair to say that he did not expect to be where he is 4 years later, which is having occupied about a fifth of Ukraine, which is territory mostly Russia already dominated at the beginning of the war. The war continues, shows no signs of abating, and I think at this point can basically be characterized as a war of attrition. More than anything else, the front lines haven't significantly moved beyond where they were really 2 or 3 years ago. The main change in 2025 is that the US has confoundingly and almost absurdly a leadership that clearly has more sympathy in its core for Putin and for Zelensky and for Russia than for Ukraine. That's big. And the question headed into 2026 is whether the Europeans can make up whatever shortfall results, because the US hasn't yet completely wound down its aid to Ukraine. A lot of that was allocated even before, but there's a chance that in 2025 that may occur.
In
2026, rather.
Yeah.
In 2026 that may occur.
Yeah, and Dan, in this address, Putin says that Russia will win. What does victory realistically look like here? US intelligence reports have just come out that Russia's aims in Ukraine have not changed, and Putin still intends to take all of the country.
Well, a lot of the world believes that Putin might suffice with part of Ukraine occupied by Russia and annexed by Russia, and some sort of domination over the rest of it, perhaps by denying its security guarantees or engineering a pro-Moscow government in Kiev in the next election. The usual Russian shenanigans. Of course, it's reasonable to think otherwise, that he won't stop until he occupies all of Ukraine, but it's also conceivable that he's figured out that that isn't likely anytime soon, as long as the West continues to support Ukraine. One possibility is for Russia to simply declare victory with the current front lines. It may be sufficing with the fact that it really does look like Ukraine will never join NATO. In other words, he controls the terms of debate, because this whole thing is an invention of Russia. All of it from beginning to end is what Russia wants and what Russia fantasizes about and what Russia lies about. So that's one version of victory. Another, of course, is that the US pulls back its aid for Ukraine, denies them intelligence sharing. The Europeans fail to step up, and maybe the front line moves further west. And then again, he could conceivably declare victory, or he could press on, but having achieved gains on the ground. I have to say, it is so absurd to hear him wishing well to the Russian people in the context of victory in the war, because even if they do a little bit better in the war, even if they fully win the war, Russia has suffered so spectacularly much. The Russian people have been battered so badly by Putin's colossally misconceived war and the absolutely ridiculous policy. They've lost 250,000 men. 1 million people have emigrated. The economy has been thrashed in the sense that it's currently fully a war economy. Its manufacturing is down. Real production is down. I'm not talking about production of munitions. Its trade with the world has become a joke, fully dependent on energy exports to China and India, basically. Russia's a sad shell of itself and of what people hoped for 26 years ago on this day, when Boris Yeltsin, on December 31st, 1999, handed the reins to his new and young Prime Minister Putin.
Indeed. There's been two significant updates this week. The Trump and Zelensky meeting, which saw, of course, possible security guarantees for Ukraine. So it looked positive for Zelensky then. But then the Russian president called up Donald Trump directly and informed him of an alleged drone strike on his residence in Novorossiysk. Do you think that recent play by Putin has completely countered Zelensky and the gains that were made at his meeting earlier this week?
Short answer is no. I don't think it was necessarily that call that completely countered Zelensky, but it had an effect because Trump was sounding different after the call, and Trump complained about the supposed attack during his summit with Netanyahu, of all people. I think judging what Trump will do by what Trump says is a bit of a fool's errand. His speeches and statements are frequently so incoherent. He's obviously not committed to speaking the truth necessarily. I think if we look at the overall picture, the music that you have heard from Trump for years now, it's very clear that he likes authoritarians and basically even dictators. He somehow admires strongmen. He expressed his appreciation of Syria's new president in those terms of Erdogan, who has turned a sort of a democracy into an autocracy in Turkey in those terms. He speaks of Putin glowingly as a strong person. He's never spoken that way of Zelensky. Zelensky became the only world leader in my memory to be kicked out of the White House during 2025. So I think it's clear that Putin can benefit from a lot of sympathy from the White House for his basic goal, which is at the very least to seize part of Ukraine and also to dominate Ukraine, because Trump believes in spheres of influence by large and powerful countries. He believes that everything is interests and values have no purpose. He is not necessarily an enemy of what Putin's trying to do, and that is a major strategic benefit that Putin received in 2025. It's the one thing, but it's a big thing.
Indeed. dperry, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to talk to you on these issues.